Expecting the unexpected. Hello everyone. Have you ever noticed that we're thinking always from a perception that has been programmed? Since childhood, we are conditioned to think in a certain way, to expect things in a certain way, to believe in certain things in certain ways. We have no idea how many layers of conditioning we have in our consciousness. Because consciousness is free, is unlimited, but since we have to be conditioned in order to function in this world, we get a certain programming from our parents, our culture, religion, country, etc. And we think we are free, but we're setting everything in life according to our conditioning, what we call perception. We think that's the truth, but it's actually just one point of view or perception. This also contaminates the way we desire things, especially the way we feel them natural in order to manifest them. You see, have you ever noticed that whenever you're desiring something that seems impossible to you, usually we feel like we're not going to make it, or something big has to happen in order for us to make it, to manifest it? This is because we're also conditioning our desires according to our set of perceptions. Say, for example, you need a big amount of money. Usually, the first thing that people think is, I'm going to get it through the lottery. This is because our conditioning tells us the only crazy way to get that amount of money would be winning the lottery. So instead of imagining the end, which would be having a big amount of money, what we imagine is actually the bridge of incidents. This is a very common mistake. But it's still a mistake. If my end is the money, I shouldn't condition the way I'm gonna get it. We tend to do this without noticing we're doing it. So sometimes we confuse the bridge of incidents with the manifestation itself, with the end itself. The more we let loose of the programmings of how things should happen and not attach our desires with the way things should happen, you're going to feel a difference when you think about your desire. Pay attention. Does your desire come with a small print that says how it should happen? There's a beautiful example in the book The Law and the Promise by Neville Goddard. He says, the lady in the following story so successfully felt the feeling of her wish fulfilled, she made her mood the character of the night, frozen in a delightful dream. And so she writes, at the time this wonderful thing happened to me, I was out of a job and had no family to fall back upon for support. I needed just about everything. To find a decent job, I needed a card to look for it. And though I had a card, it was so worn out, it was ready to fall apart. I was behind my rent, I had no proper clothes to seek a job, and today, it's no fun for a woman of 55 to apply for a job of any kind. My bank account was almost depleted, and there was no friend to whom I could turn. But I had been attending to your lectures for almost a year, and my desperation forced me to put my imagination to the test. Indeed, I had nothing to lose. It was natural for me, I suppose, to begin by imagining myself having everything I needed. But I needed so many things, and in such short order, that I found myself exhausted when I finally got through the list. And by that time, I was so nervous I could not sleep. One lecture night, I heard you tell of an artist who captured the feeling, or word, as you called it, of, isn't it wonderful, in his personal experience. I began to apply this idea to my case. Instead of thinking of and imagining every article I needed, I tried to capture the feeling that something wonderful was happening to me. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. I would say over and over to myself as I fell asleep, isn't it wonderful? Something marvelous is happening to me now. And as I fell asleep, I would feel the way I would expect to feel under such circumstances. I repeated that imaginary action and feeling for 2 months, night after night, and one day, in early October, I met a casual friend I hadn't seen for months, who informed me he was about to leave on a trip to New York. I had lived in New York many years ago, and we talked of the city a few moments, and then parted. I completely forgot the incident. 1 month later, to the day, this man called at my apartment and simply handed me a certified check in my name for $2,500. After I got over the initial shock of seeing my name on a check for so much money, the story that unfolded seemed to me like a dream. It concerned a friend that I had not seen or heard from in more than 25 years. This friend of my past, I now learned, had become extremely wealthy in those 25 years. Our mutual acquaintance who had brought the check to me had met him quite by accident during the trip to New York last month. During their conversation, they spoke of me, and for reasons I was not to know, for to this day I have not heard from him personally and have never attempted to contact him, this old friend decided to share a portion of his great wealth with me. For the next 2 years, from the office of his attorney, I received monthly checks so generous in amount, they not only covered every necessary requirement of my daily living, but left much over for all the lovely things of life: a car, clothes, a spacious apartment, and best of all, no need to earn my daily bread. This past month, I received a letter and some legal papers to be signed, which provide the continuation of this monthly income for the rest of my natural life. TK. If the fool would persist in his folly, he would become wise. So she had many problems to fix. But by the time she would finish imagining everything she needed to fix in her life, she was overwhelmed because there were many things and she had no idea how they were going to come about. So instead of focusing on that, she did something very clever. She just imagined incredible satisfaction, feeling the sensation of something wonderful is happening to me. She immersed herself in that sensation, that vibration, and she became it. And the curious thing is how she manifested everything she needed. So her 2 friends got to talk about her, and this rich friend decided to send her a check for a certain amount of money. It was good money, enough for her to pay rent and other stuff. But the story doesn't end there. This rich friend decided to create a fund so she can have monthly incomes, so she doesn't have to worry ever again about monetary problems, about getting a job. You see, if she were to condition her desire, she was thinking, well, I'm over 50. Back then, it was hard for a single lady to get a job, especially when they get older. So she was thinking about all the conditions of how, in this world, in this mechanic world, she would never get what she wants. And that's overwhelming. But instead of focusing on the house and the rules of the world and how the world works, and if she's a single lady and she's over 50, she will never get that job, she doesn't even have a decent car to get to her job, etc., etc. Imagine if she would just get lost in the house of this world. She would never make it. Instead, she did the most ridiculous thing to this world she could possibly do, which is, I'm just going to focus on vibration. I'm going to focus on feeling extreme satisfaction vibrationally, feeling something amazing is happening, but actually believing that energy. Stop reasoning. Stop thinking that I'm old, that I'm single, that I'm never going to pay rent, that nobody's going to give me a job. I don't even have a decent car to get to any job. Instead of getting lost in Caesar's world's rules, she just dropped everything and decided to vibrate in the frequency of complete satisfaction of her desire. She had to let go of how the world works in order to feel the invisible substance that creates everything. She could never control the fact that she bumped into a friend. She could never control the fact that they got to talking about her travels. Not only that, she couldn't control that this friend would eventually talk to another friend that became rich. And not only that, she could never control the rich friend deciding to create a fund for her rest of her life so she doesn't have to worry about getting a job ever again in her life. That is how crazy life can get. The more we lose the rule sets of Caesar's world, of this world. This world is mechanic. It functions according to collective states of consciousness of how things should work. We're detaching from this world. We're becoming independent. And that requires losing everything we think is true and focusing on the end. So this is a simple but very practical thing you can do. Whenever you're feeling your desire, pay attention. Remember, attention is everything. Pay attention and watch if there is small print in your desires contract. Are you conditioning this desire? Stating or feeling, this is gonna happen this or that way. I should have contacts. I should lose weight to get my boyfriend back. I should win the lottery. Are we conditioning the end? Is this end coming with a bridge of incident of our own choosing? Or are we gonna let consciousness, God's self, create that bridge of incident in an infinite amount of possibilities it has if we let it? Pay attention to what your desire is bringing with it. That is an incredible exercise. It's simple, but pay attention, and I promise you, you will find out where you're conditioning that end. And I'll see you all next time.